In today's video, we're going to take a look at what I call the forgotten generation of Thunderbird. You see, in the late 50s and early 60s, the Thunderbird was the car to be seen in. A lot of people in Hollywood had these cars. Elvis had one, Frank Sinatra had one, Clark Gable had one, Marilyn Monroe had one. But you see, in the mid-60s, something happened at Ford Motor Company that took the coolness factor away from the Thunderbird. Of course, I'm talking about the introduction of the Mustang in 1964. So what was Ford to do with the Thunderbird? It had been a successful car for a number of years. They couldn't just cast it aside, but the success of the Mustang meant that it was time for a change. It's said that when Lee Iacocca saw the design for the four-door Thunderbird, he greenlighted it immediately. Today, we take a look at the fifth generation Ford Thunderbird.
For 1967, ride Ford's new wave with Thunderbird. This year, Thunderbird adds a four-door model to the line. 4 doors to Thunderbird elegance. Inside, innovations you expect from a leader. Beautiful appointments and personal luxury wherever you look, wherever you touch. More than ever, Thunderbird is unique in all the world.
In September 1966, Ford introduces the completely redesigned 1967 Ford Thunderbird. The changes to the car were massive. The new Thunderbird was no longer unibody construction, but now body on frame. The Thunderbird was upsized, the convertible option was no longer offered, and for the first time, there was a 4-door option. The 4-door featured suicide doors that were touted as offering easier rear seat access. The car featured a full-width grille with hideaway headlamps and full-width sequential tail lamps. 3 models of Thunderbird were offered: the hardtop coupe, the Landau coupe, and the Landau sedan. The standard power plant was the 315 horsepower, 390 cubic inch V8 Thunderbird Special. Optional was the 345 horsepower Thunderbird 428 V8. Both featured a 4-barrel carburetor and both were mated to a 3-speed Cruise-O-Matic automatic transmission. The standard equipment list for the Thunderbird was a long one. Ford offered lighting just about everywhere as a standard feature, including the ashtray, storage compartments, glove box, trunk, under the hood, and the ignition switch. Courtesy lights were added to the doors and interior rear quarters. And just for good measure, they threw in a map light. Other standard features included front bucket seats, a tilt-away steering wheel, front disc brakes, a rear center folding armrest, sequential turn signals, and underbody sound coating. Optional items included 6-way power seats, convenience control panel, which included power windows and locks, an AM/FM radio, an AM/FM multiplex stereo, rear seat speakers, a power antenna, white or red sidewall tires, 2-tone paint, tinted glass, air conditioning, a limited slip differential, a reclining passenger seat with headrest, a heavy-duty battery, leather and vinyl upholstery, speed control, and shoulder seat belts. The reception for this car was mixed. Car Life stated the 67 Thunderbird was slicker, quieter, and smoother than any Bird that preceded it. However, Car and Driver complained that the bigger Thunderbird had become a sharply styled, slightly smaller Galaxy with all the trimmings. They liked the more functional new interior, but criticized the 4-door test car for poor visibility. I'll quote here, "Once underway, the Thunderbird is just another big domestic car." The buying public was not overly enthused by the new Thunderbird, as sales numbers were only slightly higher than the 1966 numbers, with Ford delivering 77,976 Thunderbirds for the 1967 model year. 1968 brought a new power plant to the Thunderbird lineup. The 360 horsepower 429 cubic inch Thunderjet became an option, and the 428 was dropped. There were no other changes of note. Sales numbers dipped, with Ford dealers delivering 64,391 Thunderbirds for the 1968 model year. The 1969 model year brought changes. The 390 power plant is discontinued, leaving the 429 Thunderjet as the only available engine. Ford added a new Landau coupe to the model lineup. The Thunderbird saw the tail lamp panel redesigned. The full-width tail lamp panel was replaced with 2 separate tail lamps and a center metal divider. Ford added a large Thunderbird emblem to a cleaner-looking redesigned grille. Ford added a larger anti-roll bar, lowered the car's ride height, and stiffened the suspension in order to improve handling. None of these changes affected sales numbers, as Ford delivered 49,272 Thunderbirds for the 1960 model year. That was the lowest number since 1958, and it has to be noted that the 58 models were only produced for 9 months and that the country was in an economic recession.
Please fasten your seatbelt, sir. We're about to take off.
Introducing the great new birds of 1970, Pan Am's new Boeing 747, and the great new 1970 Thunderbird, with its daring new grille, executive control panel, and an interior where, as far as luxury goes, the sky's the limit. Thunderbird 1970, completely redesigned for a new decade. Powered by a high-performance 429 V8 engine so smooth, you'll think you're taking off in your own private executive jet. Why drive when you can fly?
The 1970 model year was a redesign for the Thunderbird platform. It has to be noted that Bunky Knudsen, who was hired away from Chevrolet in 1968 to become Ford's CEO, had his fingerprints all over this redesign. Mr. Knudsen was not a designer by trade, however he knew what he liked. He pushed Ford's design team to include what he called the bold nose. He also had them add larger rear quarter panels. In September 1969, Henry Ford II fired Knudsen, but by then it was too late to change anything on the 1970 Thunderbird. The 1970 Thunderbird featured a new front fascia with a pointy nose, exposed headlamps, and larger rear quarter panels. The full-width tail lamp returned. The roofline was lowered for all Thunderbirds, and the two-door coupe models received a less formal, more fastpack style C-pillar. The wipers retracted below the hood line when not in use. The radio antenna was moved to inside the front windshield. The Thunderbird was offered in a coupe or sportsback models and the four-door sedan. There were no other changes of note. Ford delivers 50,364 Thunderbirds for the 1970 model year. 1971 brought some changes. The grille became 3 horizontal bars, and Ford brought back the more formal roofline for the two-door when one option for the Landau. There were no other changes of note for the Thunderbird. Ford delivers 36,055 Thunderbirds for the 1971 model year. 1971 would be the last year of the four-door Thunderbird. There was a new generation coming out, the 6th generation, and that would be the largest Thunderbird ever built. Of course, that's a story for another day. In the beginning of the video, I called this the forgotten generation of Thunderbirds. It's just because you don't see them that often. They don't make the rounds at car shows or events. People don't talk about these cars the way they do the earlier or even the 80s Thunderbirds. I also spoke about how the early Thunderbirds were the cars to be seen in if you were in Hollywood. And the 5th generation, not so much, but don't despair. There was a celebrity that proudly bought a new 5th gen Thunderbird and drove it all the way up till 1991. I'm talking about DeForest Kelley. You may know him as Dr. McCoy or Bones on the original series of Star Trek. DeForest Kelley owned this car and did a lot of the service work himself. He maintained the car meticulously. And the only reason he sold it in 1991 is because he needed something more reliable. He was getting up in age, and he needed something to take both him and his wife to the doctor's appointments that come with getting older. Another quick story about DeForest Kelley's Thunderbird. One time while filming the original series, he had parked his car beside Leonard Nimoy's 1963 Buick Riviera. When leaving the set, he had his wheels cocked the wrong way. When he backed out, he accidentally dented that Riviera. I hope you enjoyed this look back at the 5th generation Thunderbird. If you did, please consider hitting the like button. That way other people can see it. And also consider subscribing. There's plenty of content like this on the channel. This video over here goes over the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th generation of Thunderbird. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll see you.